Hello, everyone. My name is Gitika Gorthy, and today I am very honored and excited to be doing a very special space champion whom I read and met on Twitter, Miss Cheyenne Polius. She is a St. Lucian astrophysicist and science communicator who completed an integrated master's degree in physics and astrophysics in the UK. Her passion for space came full circle back to her home island when she co founded St. Lucia's first National Astronomy Association. In her capacity as co founder and president, she is working to raise awareness of the potential benefits of space technology to the Caribbean region, as well as providing an avenue for space enthusiasts to connect. Ms. Polius took a detour into the finance technology world after completing her master's, but she still uses her free time to share astrophysics content along with some fun gifts on social media, which is how I came across her wonderful story. She aims to pursue her PhD in astrophysics with her wider career goals centered on increasing ethnic and gender diversity in STEM fields. She has many other incredible experiences under her belt, as well as an inspiring journey that led to where she is today. So I'm very excited to learn more about her. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking your time to inspire the next generation, as well as sharing your journey with us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. When I was reading about the work that you did and how you got into space, I was like, I connected so much with the story. And I feel like a lot of other middle school and high school students can really connect with it. But before we get into that like aha moment that got you into space, could you first tell us a little bit more about your typical day? I know usually there isn't one, but how would you describe how your usual day is?
Yep. So my usual day at the moment, I try my best to wake up really early. So my job starts at 8:30. I try to wake up by 6 a.m. Just to kind of give myself some time to get ready for the day. And that's usually when I kind of plan out what I want to do in terms of, stuff for social media. So stuff for like, because all of the stuff that I do right now with astronomy and space is outside of work. So that's kind of my time to like brainstorm. So I try to give myself a couple of hours before the day to start that. And then my work day typically looks like, well, I'm an analytics specialist consultant in finance technology. So that's just kind of a fancy way of saying like I help out my company's clients. So our clients are investment professionals or people who work in like investment banks, insurance companies. And my job is to help them out with our analytics products. So they use a lot of the products in our software to kind of analyze their portfolios. So look at, how much money they're making, how much risk they're taking, the things they're investing in. So we have some pretty advanced tools that help them out with that. And my job is to kind of support them and help them use those applications. So that day can, like you say, there's no typical day, but essentially the components of it are working on kind of longer term projects to get some of these products implemented into their systems, also dealing with random things that might break during the day. And that's kind of why it's not typical, because you never know what's going to break today or tomorrow until someone comes to you and says, hey, can you help me fix this? But I also do get a lot of time to train, whether it be like the clients, so training them in how to use their software, or maybe training other people in the firm on the analytics products, because I am considered like a specialist. So my day can kind of be a mixture of things, meetings here and there, and then in the evening, of course, chill, and then probably do some more space stuff because I kind of have to fit it around my 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's incredible. You're still able to go after that physics and your interest in space, even though you have a 9 to 5 job. And I'm just curious, you studied in physics. What was that path like to detour into like finance? Like, was there like a factor that kind of influenced you to go there? And did you not want to pursue like a space related career, or are you trying to combine your finance and space career together?
Yep. So when I graduated, I wasn't exactly sure how. So I knew that I wanted to do science communication. I do really love astrophysics, and I still would really love a job in the space sector, but I knew that I wanted to do science communication. I just didn't have a direct path to get there. So I thought, okay, I'm graduated now. I have a lot of transferable skills from my degree. What kind of jobs would be interesting to me? And I thought data analysis jobs, so things like data science, things like data analytics, all of those things I would find interesting because I did a lot of that in my degree. the finance part just happened by chance. Just looking up different jobs, I found this one, and it just said that you had to have an interest in finance, which I did, because I did business subjects in secondary school, so well, your high school. So it was like I always had that kind of, I always wanted to know more. As even if I followed the path of science, I did really enjoy the business subjects I did. So I thought, okay, this is a good chance to learn, because I came in on what's called a graduate scheme. So it was all about training and developing those skills to do the job that I do now. So it wasn't just like I had to come in knowing everything. So I think it was more so the fact that I could apply my problem solving skills and my love for numbers that I get from doing physics, being able to apply that to the job, but also being able to learn something new. So learn about the finance industry, learn about like the stock market and all those words you kind of hear going around the place that you don't really know what they mean. So when I saw this opportunity, I thought it's a great chance to get some work experience, meet some new people. So that's really why it was like a detour. Like I know it might not be, it wasn't ever like my career dream to be in finance, but I thought I would just take the opportunity now and make the most of it. And then I'm meeting new people along the way. I'm still meeting people from the astronomy community through social media. So I'm definitely not like disconnected myself from that. I'm just kind of embracing a new experience.
Yeah, definitely. And really like how you mentioned how skills are so transferable and interdisciplinary. So you learn these skill sets in college and you're not confined to sticking with that career, but you can kind of explore different things. And, you still want to pursue a PhD in astrophysics. You still have that continued interest in space. And, even something even more incredible is you co-founded LUNAA. And I'm curious, could you kind of share a little bit more about what LUNAA does, as well as the inspiration behind you founding it, and like how you managed to co-found like this organization, as well as having all of these other things that you're doing?
Yeah, so LUNAA is my little baby. I love telling the story of LUNAA because it's one of those things I just wish I had when I was growing up in St. Lucia. So when I decided I wanted to do astrophysics, and we'll get to like the big aha moment, but when I decided that, I didn't know anyone else who'd done astrophysics. Some of my teachers, so my physics teacher, she'd done a physics degree. Although it wasn't focused on astronomy, she was kind of the closest that I had. And then my chemistry teacher as well, because like I just kind of clinged on to my science teachers, but there was no one who had done astronomy. It was just something I was interested in, and I had nothing but like the internet and like the TV, which was like enough for me at the time. But I know that there are probably, if I was in that situation, there were probably so many other St. Lucian students, or even just St. Lucian people who might have had the interest, because space is really cool. There are lots of people who are interested in it and just not had that avenue to express that or to find other people to like share that with. So I co-founded LUNAA when I was like in the middle of my degree, and it kind of happened through another organization that I volunteered for. So the Space Generation Advisory Council, my role there was to kind of raise awareness of the benefits of space technology to St. Lucia. So I tried to find a network of people who were interested. And I found a group of people who had that interest, whether it be in the technology side of things or the space side of things. And just in talking to them and trying to come up with like events and stuff, we kind of thought, why don't we start like a National Astronomy Association? Why don't we start this place that everyone in St. Lucia can come to? So that was kind of our like aha moment in one of those meetings that we were having. And we thought, yeah, why not? Because we don't have a National Astronomy Club or anything like that. So that really came from me wanting to have that space in St. Lucia. So now, no pun intended. So now LUNAA is like what I say, its mission is to bring together space and science enthusiasts all over the island. Just people who just want to look up at the sky, from those people all the way to those who actually want a career in the space sector or are interested in satellites and space missions and all those kinds of things. And also being able to do it from a perspective of the country's development, sharing those benefits of how being involved in the space sector as a country or as a Caribbean region can also help with our sustainable development, because there's so much space technology like satellites that help our everyday life. So right now, that's what LUNAA is. It's really just a place for people to come and have some space fun, but hopefully get to a point of being a respected organization to the point where we realize like we actually need this in our country and it can actually help us like move forward as a country as well.
Yeah, that's incredibly inspiring. I know, like, we both have this similar drive, I guess. When I founded Ignited Thinkers, it like stemmed from like my parents as well, because they both grew up in India, very rural parts of India. And they would tell me like, "Oh, if I could build a model rocket when I was in middle school like you, I probably would have gotten into the space industry." And so really it was conversations like that that made me realize the disparity in space as well, and made me wanted to found Ignited Thinkers to provide this opportunity, this middle school club I had, to everyone. And just hearing that same experience that you've had when you realized that you were interested in astronomy, but you didn't necessarily have the resources or the tools to pursue it. You just made that accessible to everyone and provided that space for people to explore their passions. I think that in itself is just incredibly inspiring. And I want to thank you for all that you're doing with LUNAA, because that's really incredible. And I'm sure so many kids in your area are at least considering astronomy as like a real career now that they have the opportunities to explore it. Like another point that you were mentioning was that people didn't know that space was like a real career. You know, you'd be interested as a little kid and be like, oh, planets, aliens, gravity, like the concepts were super cool, but you never thought of it as like you could explore that as a career, as a 20, you know, you do that 24/7 of your life and get paid for it. You would never think of it like that. And so now that, you know, we're starting to make space more accessible and people are starting to become more aware of it through commercialization, I'm really excited for the future of the space industry. Yeah. And my next question for you is really just what was the aha moment for you getting into the space industry? You kind of touched on it, mentioning your science teachers, but I'm really curious of diving into the whole story of what inspired and sparked your interest for astronomy and physics.
Yeah, so that again, I feel like is something that fell into my lap in a way, because I've always been super curious. I've always loved watching documentaries, doing puzzles. Like I remember just everyone would always be telling my parents, like, oh my gosh, like she's always just sitting there like reading a book. Like, you know, I wasn't that child to like just like that's just what people knew me for. And I really loved learning. So by the time I got to school, I was like, this is cool. There's a whole place for like just learning. As strange as it might sound, because like, you know, I actually did enjoy school and science. Again, it was again that kind of realization that this is the subject that tells me about how things work. And that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know how everything worked. And I remember doing like first day of physics, like starting to do, I mean, I don't like, it's our like high school exams. So we call them CXCs, like the UK call them GCSEs. I don't know what you guys have, but it's like end of high school exams,
Yeah.
and we prepare for them for like 2 years. And I remember going in, I went into the science class because they put us into different classes based off of the subjects we were taking. So I went into the science class, and I remember my first physics class, they were like, open your notebooks, write down the definition of physics, because that's the first time they split out like chemistry, physics, and biology. And it was like, definition of physics is the study of how the universe works. And I was like, there's a whole subject like dedicated to how the universe works. And we had a physics, it was either, I think we had a physics project. So discovering the different like different scientists, writing like biographies on like Galileo Galilei and like really famous as scientists and like astronomers in the past. And I remember just researching for my project and seeing the word astrophysics. And I was like, wait a second, did you just join astronomy and physics together? And I just went down the rabbit hole of Google of like, what is astrophysics? What is an astrophysicist? Like, how did you join them together? Like, how is that a thing? And eventually I saw something that said astrophysics degree. And I started clicking around and realized that this was actually something that I could go away and study, to something I could do at university. And I knew, even if I didn't really understand exactly what university was, I knew I wanted to go to university. So the fact that I was like, I already really like physics. I really love space. I watch space documentaries, were always my favorite. And you're telling me that I could actually study this. Like, so that was the kind of moment for me where it was like, this thing that I already enjoy, I'm actually allowed to pursue it. It's a thing that people do, and I can actually sign up for and like go to university to do it. So that was kind of the moment. I think I was 15. So that was kind of the moment for me where I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Wow, I think we have so many parallels in our lives because I didn't know space medicine was a real career, but I was always interested in biology and I was interested in space, right? And then just like you, I randomly searched up space medicine on the internet and I found out it was a real career and aerospace medicine was like a real path. And I think your story is just a testament to that. You like when you find what you like, you're just gonna like you just it just clicks like you just know that that's what you want to do and you just chase after it. And, I feel like a lot of times we're like pressured into stereotypical careers, like, oh, you have to be this, or that. You can't combine careers together. Or, you know, uh, I feel like also a lot of times, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, you want to be an astronaut. And as a little kid, it's like everyone, I feel like a lot of people go through the stage where they want to go to space, but they think it's too childish when they grow up or going into a space career is so surreal. But there's so many opportunities in the industry. Like you literally can be an astronaut plus more. You can combine your interest in food and science, math and science, art and science. Literally, you can combine everything together and you can find a career in the space industry. And I think, your journey with how you found astrophysics and it just took a Google search, but also that inspiration and that curiosity that piqued you of like, wait, what is this? I think that's so cool. I'm so glad that you were able to discover astrophysics through your class. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And so I also was, I was reading how your physics teacher, which you kind of mentioned already, was a huge inspiration for you to actually to be able to pursue a career in physics and believe in yourself. Could you share this aspect of your journey with us? Because I feel like a lot of students, they try to seek and search for role models on the internet or people around them who might look like them doing what they want to do. So how is, your physics teacher monumental in your career?
Yeah, I think this one is something that's like I definitely realized and appreciated more looking back and like reflecting on my journey. Because at the time, she was just my favorite teacher teaching my favorite subject. Like she was an amazing teacher and she just happened to teach me physics, which I also really liked. So that was like, a bonus for me. But looking back, I think it was the fact that, so growing up in St. Lucia, the population is like majority Black, and I went to an all girls secondary school. So it was kind of like historically built by the Catholic Church. So most of the teachers were female. So that just kind of ended up being like, so I was in an all girls school, and most of my teachers, so people teaching me math and science, were female, the majority of them throughout my entire like 5 years. So looking back, it was kind of like I always had that representation. I always had like, it was never a question of, can I do this? It was always like, what do you want to do? And how are we going to make it happen? And with her, I really liked her as a teacher because she was quite young and she kind of like embraced that. She kind of like said, okay, you're all a bunch of teenagers. Like, I'm not like too far from a teenager. Like, she wasn't super strict. She kind of just kept it, obviously, to a level like she was professional, but it also felt like you could go to her for like not like you felt like she was your friend in like the most professional way possible. She didn't cross any boundaries or anything like that, but it just kind of felt like you could connect to her and you could relate to her a lot more, and she didn't abuse her authority or anything. And I just thought she was super cool. Like she would come to school really fashionable, like she'd be blasting rap, like driving up to the school. Like she just kind of embraced that I'm a person, I'm a woman, I can have fun, I go out, I go to parties. So it just felt like, oh, this is not just someone who's trying to, get this impression that they're perfect or they're like above you because they're a teacher. And I think looking back, that kind of put into my head that I can be cool and I can be fun and I can be fashionable and I can still be like good at physics because she was great at what she did. She was super smart. And yeah, that kind of got me closer to her and we really had a good student teacher relationship. So when I got to a point of being able to, like when I figured out I wanted to do astrophysics, I would just ask her like a bunch of questions. I was like, so did you do any like astronomy modules like during your degree? And I would just ask her all these questions and she would always answer them. And she would always encourage me as well. Like sometimes I did feel like, oh, I don't really know much about this and I'm not going to be able to do it before I wouldn't have done any astronomy classes before I got to university because it just wasn't in our curriculum in the Caribbean. So I'm like, what if I get there and I don't understand anything? And she would always just tell me like, go for it. Like you're doing good in physics. You'll be just fine. And I think just having that like person who was like representing me. I think even if we didn't have a personal relationship, like just the fact that I could see a Black woman teaching me physics and being really good at it was enough for me to be like, you can do it, so I can do it too.
Yeah, I will definitely have to say that having that figure and that role model in your life, I can tell just from the way you're explaining it that she sounds like an incredible human being. And I think also just like not portraying a false, vision or like image. I feel like a lot of times we're like, oh, professional, you have to like dress like a man, you have to be super professional, and you have to, if you're like a scientist, you're in the STEM industry, you're like not very feminine. Like, but that's so like not true. And I feel like people are changing now, and I feel like it's more prevalent than ever, like on social media. I'll see someone being like, I'm an astrophysicist, and she's wearing like such a pretty dress, and she's trying to represent, showing that, you know, if you're in STEM, you can be anyone. There's no stereotype for it, and you don't have to be a certain way to be a part of a certain industry. And just having that role model, I can see that it influenced you a lot. And I know a lot of other girls, looking at the interview series as well, looking at you, people who have a similar background as you, I know they'll definitely be inspired by your words and be like, oh, if she can do it, then I can do it. So like that's literally the purpose of the interview series as well, just to show those examples. So I'm glad that she was a role model that you were able to look up to. And I was reading how at a point in time you felt like you probably weren't as interested or fascinated with physics just because you didn't think that, like other people, you didn't love to, use a telescope necessarily. You didn't necessarily like to watch Star Wars, or you weren't really excited about it like the other kids. And actually, this is a point that I've never brought up before, but I think needs to be brought up. When I was reading about it, I was like, that's so true. I know so many people, including myself, who I've never like stay up like till midnight to use a telescope before. I've never, like that type of person, but I know on social media I see hundreds of people being like, I stayed up till 3 a.m. and I looked at the stars, and I'm like, wow, that's dedication. So just from your personal background, having that slightly imposter syndrome, which I can connect with, and I'm sure other people can connect with, how did you deal with that emotion, and how were you able to overcome that?
Yeah, so I definitely felt like serious imposter syndrome in my first year of university because, like you said, I was just surrounded by all of these people who just like my lecturers would make Star Wars jokes and people would laugh and I wouldn't understand what was going on. And I remember like one of the guys on my course, like everybody's adding each other on Facebook and stuff as we're getting to know each other. And it was a few months after we started the degree, and he posted like he got a Christmas gift and it was a telescope, and he was so excited. And like the fact that he got a big new telescope, and I just kind of thought like, I didn't have this, like I was always really interested in like science, but I didn't have this like, it wasn't a hobby like astrophysics or astrophotography or stargazing. Like none of that was ever a hobby. And I think it was probably because I wasn't exposed to it. Like if there were telescopes and stuff around, I'm sure everybody loves looking through a telescope, whether they're
Of
interested in
course.
astronomy or not. But I really kind of think like, am I in the right place? Because everybody else seems to have had this path and now they're here. And now I've just kind of popped in. I kind of felt like, well, I'm just popped in. Like, what if I don't have enough of the passion to continue? Um, and I did bring it up with my personal tutor at the time. And he really helped because he'd been like a lecturer in my department for a really long time. And he told me that there are those people who like to look up at the sky, and there are those people who just like to understand how things work. And both of them have a place in astronomy, and both of them have a place in this department. Like, you seem like the type, you love to do the math and you love to understand things like how the stars work and how galaxies are formed and the kind of theory behind how things in the universe work. And there are some people who just like to put it, like look through a telescope and see what's out there and collect data. And some people like both, but like it's perfectly fine to like one and not gravitate towards the other one. So he really did help me, just having someone who had been in the field for a while telling you like, yeah, like this lecturer, he really loves this kind of stuff. He had probably hasn't looked through a telescope in years, and he's like a senior lecturer. He's like a senior professor in our department. So that kind of gave me a lot of reassurance, and that was within the first few months. So it didn't take long for me to kind of give myself that reassurance again, because I really enjoyed my classes at university. Like I was enjoying them. I was getting good grades. So by the end of the first year, I kind of ended up proving to myself, like, you're doing just fine. Like, you're meant to be here. But it did take someone to, while I was going through all those emotions, to have someone to reassure me. And if you are feeling any of that, anybody who's listening who feels that for any other subject, like, if you're passionate about it, then you deserve to be there and you're meant to be there. Like, if you're interested in it, like, that's all you need. It doesn't matter who's interested in what other thing, how much more they're interested, what hobbies they take up. Like, if you think that you're interested and you're willing to put in the work, then you're right where you need to be.
That's incredible advice. I think that needs to be said. I feel like a lot of the times, whether it be like, oh, you're the only person in the room who looks the way you do and you don't blend in or whatever, or maybe you're just like, like you were saying, some people might have like this different type of expression of enthusiasm than you do. That doesn't necessarily make you, less or, less enthusiastic or less passionate about a certain topic. If you love what you're doing, then you don't that's the way you express your interest. And I think just believing in your interests and chasing after that is so important. And don't let those other feelings come into play. I know it's kind of hard when everyone around you is like, a Star Wars fan. Maybe you're personally not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't love space because there's so many different ways you can express your interest and love, like, your gifts on social media. Like, those are amazing. And I'm sure they have that's how I learned about your incredible journey. So I think just connecting with people through different senses of humor and different ways of expression, I think is completely okay. And of course, building a community of supporters, having friends and family or teachers and mentors who are there to support you, I think is always helpful. And so, kind of diving a little bit away from your journey, just based off of your space expertise, I'm curious on your personal opinion, which is what makes you excited and what makes you nervous for the future of the aerospace industry.
I am really excited for how we're really like pushing the boundaries. Like, technology is always kind of pushing the boundaries. There's always new developments, but I think we're living in such an interesting time now. So with all of the different like SpaceX missions, Starlink, like they just sent Perseverance to Mars. They just launched the James Webb Space Telescope. So that, I think James Webb is probably the thing I'm most excited about. Probably because it's happening now, but also because it's something that I can recognize the significance of, because throughout my entire degree, it's always been like, okay, here's what we can see with this kind of telescope, and here are the limitations. And it's always just kind of like, okay, this is amazing, but, and then now James Webb Space Telescope is coming, and it's like, we're going to see like so far into the universe, like further than we've ever seen before. And I can just imagine the students going into astronomy degrees now, learning about the telescope and being able to see the pictures from the telescope and like learning, just like uncovering those discoveries as they're happening. I think that's so exciting. It's really amazing to just kind of live through history, because we've learned about the amazing advancements before, and we're learning about like, oh, that was really cool when it happened in like the 1900s. And then now you're kind of living in the next few decades for someone to say this happened in 2021 or 2022. And it's like you actually here, like experiencing it now. So that's really exciting. Things that make me nervous. I think what we've seen recently with kind of just the rise of social media and things going viral a lot more quickly, and a lot of controversy with everybody having opinions, I'm a bit nervous about people's perspective on all of the amazing things that I just mentioned, because there is a lot of debate and controversy around why are we going to space? Why are we spending so much money on these missions and stuff like that when we have problems to be solved on Earth? And I think it's just something, it makes me nervous because it's something that can really take away some of the joy and can kind of give you anxiety, especially if you're someone who tweets about space. But I do think, like, my personal opinion is that it can, like, you can have both. Like, there's like those missions going to space and stuff like that. It doesn't take away from people who are also trying to solve the problems on Earth. And those missions going to space, the more we learn about space, the more we can understand about our planet, because we are part of this universe. And I think it makes me nervous, but it also makes me really excited for like the new wave of science communicators who are coming in, who are trying to bridge that gap, who are trying to show people that it's not just like something we learn. Let's say if we do have a mission to Venus and we learn about, you know, the maybe life that might be there. What the more we learn, the more we can kind of bring back, because there's a lot of the same compounds and stuff like that, the same mechanisms that formed those other planets and those other things in space. This is how Earth formed. So I think really kind of trying to bridge that gap so it's not so much of a debate. And I know there's only so much you can do from tweeting, but that's kind of where I stand now. It's really exciting for me who like understands, but sometimes there can be a lot of negativity and a lot of like pointing fingers around the topic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with the points you're mentioning. First off, yeah, the James Webb Telescope launch was very exciting. And for someone who's so intrigued by, I mean, I'm sure everyone in this world is curious about what's beyond, and just having the opportunity to just explore further our universe is incredibly exciting. And, funny thing, when you were talking, it kind of reminded me, I was responding to this question that someone asked me, which was, what is the most exciting historical moment that you wish you could have been a part of? And I was like, the Apollo mission, like that was like the first, big thing for mankind, or I shouldn't say mankind, humankind. And I was, then after that, I was like, you know what? There's going to be an Artemis launch in a few years. So I shouldn't be writing just about what has happened historically, but what I'm looking forward to. And you mentioned a lot about, enjoying what's happening in the moment and being present. And, even though the pandemic has negatively impacted all of us in many ways, just seeing how space can unify us as a whole world, as like a humankind, and bring us together, I think is so beautiful. And just, I'm excited for the Artemis mission to see the first person of color and, a woman on the moon. I think that's going to be very exciting. But yeah, that's, great points that you bring up. And also about the nervousness aspect. A lot of people question daily, even, in my school, they're like, oh, what's the point of space? We need to invest on Earth. And I'm always advocating and trying to show people how space technology, space research directly correlates to helping protect our planet and protecting humans. For someone who's interested in aerospace medicine, I'm a huge believer that, research about medicine in space and the human body, of how astronauts are impacted, can help us, treat diseases and conditions here on Earth and just advance medical understanding, because we're learning medicine without the aspect of gravity. So just like, these different ideas that we have, just trying to convey to people. And of course, I think social media will be a powerful tool to use to try conveying to everyone that space is truly for all, and also that it's so meaningful and important for all of us to embrace it. Because the fact that we're able to talk right now is because of space technology. So yeah, and during the pandemic, I feel like all of us got used to space technology, and just acknowledging how the space industry is worth investing in is so important. But yeah, I 100% agree. And the last and final question that I have for you, that I ask every interviewee, is if you could go back in time and just kind of think of your middle school and high school self, what final piece of advice would you give for all current students out there in the world? Something that you wish someone told you when you were in middle school or high school or even college, something related to like a career advice or life advice, something just you wish someone told you.
I would say I wish someone just said like directly. I think I did get a lot of support indirectly, but if someone said like believe in yourself, I think it's something we hear all the time, but there's so much power in these words, because it really does start with you. Like if I decided that in those first few months of my degree, like I'm not good enough to be here, I should just drop out, I wouldn't be where I'm sitting today. And it's not to say that things are going to be easy, but like I said, if you have the passion for it and you're willing to put in the work and you are putting in the work, then definitely like you're meant to be there and keep going, believe in yourself. And I also wish like someone said that it's okay to ask for help. Like you're not in this journey alone. You're not meant to be in this journey alone. Nobody expects you to have it all figured out. Absolutely nobody. Not your teachers, not your friends, not the people you to go to school with. Nobody. If you are stuck, ask. Like there, especially when you get to college and university, there are people who are literally paid to help you. There are people like welfare advisors, like counselors, like therapists. There are people out there who are willing and ready to help you. So if you're stuck on anything, whether it be from homework to finances to life issues, just ask. at the very least Google to see like, what else is out there, because it is really about, like you mentioned earlier, it is really about having a community and having that support. And it's okay. It's perfectly fine to need help. Everybody needs help at one point or another in life. So just ask.
Yeah, I think that's remarkable advice. I mean, the first, I definitely think we have great synergy between our lives because when you were talking about believing in yourself, actually, I have these four words on my wall that's like, I believe in myself. I got that in like sixth grade, I think, and I just kept it up in my room ever since then. It's just kind of an affirmation, like to myself, being like, I do believe in myself. And not like there's going to be obstacles and failures every point of your life. I mean, I know you're talking about high school, end of the year exams. I know it's not the biggest deal in your long-term life, but just like for a student, that could be the biggest thing if you fail one of those exams. Or, when you're in life and you're trying to look for a career and it's, you don't pass an interview, or just, these like small failures in the long run that look big at the time, in the long run, they're very small. And throughout the process, you just have to, continuously believe in yourself and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's incredible advice because there's so many people, especially on social media, that are willing to help you even if you have family and friends near you, but also just finding those mentors, whether they be virtually through Zooms or, in person, just I think finding that community, whether it be virtual or in person, I think is so important. So I want to thank you so much for your time today and, for responding to me off of Twitter. I think your work is absolutely inspiring. And I know that your journey will be with me for the rest of my life. And I will always think back on everything that you're doing and you continue to do. And good luck on pursuing your PhD in astrophysics.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Like, thank you for all you do. What you're doing is absolutely amazing. And I know
Thank you.
you're out here changing lives for students. So well done to you as well.
Thank you so much for your time.